The Twilight Zone is the middle ground between dreams and reality. It is the light, and it is the darkness. A million shades of grey. Some people say that dreams are not real. But where does reality come from? Don't you need an idea before you can invent a car, for instance? Didn't someone get the idea to invent the silicon chip? Didn't someone get the idea to invent the analog television or the VHS video? All these ideas come from dreams. But you have destroyed the dream, haven't you? You have destroyed the analog television. You have destroyed the VHS video. Now your entire world is a computer program. Are you sure you're not living in the Twilight Zone? This is called the Fallout Shelter. By William Joseph Bailey. The year is 2020 AD. Sirens blast through enormous speakers on every street corner, and the people run as fast as they can to find shelter. The underground stations are packed solid with frightened families. Mothers cradle their terrified children in their arms, while their husbands pillage the supermarkets for last supplies of food and water. Ronald Jackson strolls down the garden path and opens the door of his greenhouse. He picks up an oil lantern and opens a trap door in the floor. He walks down the wooden steps, the light of his brass lantern illuminating the concrete walls of his nuclear fallout shelter. Ronald opens a steel door at the foot of the stairs. Well, at least I will be safe down here, he sighs to himself, locking the door behind him. The old man opens a cupboard on the wall of his concrete sanctuary. The cupboard is stacked with tins of food: corned beef, baked beans, tomato soup, hot dogs, beef curries, Irish stew, spam, meatballs and potatoes. At least I won't starve down here, mutters Ronald to himself. He walks over to the sink in the corner of the room and turns on the tap. Damned it, frowns the old man. The water's been cut off. He sits down on a camp bed. Oh well, at least I was prepared for that eventuality. He reaches under the bed and pulls out a long wooden box. Ronald opens the lid and takes out a bottle of beer. There should be enough in here to last me at least 6 weeks. He closes the lid of the box, lies down on the bed and closes his eyes. He soon falls into a heavy sleep. The hours pass quickly. The old man opens his eyes and yawns. Now, what shall I have for breakfast? He asks himself. He stands up, opens the cupboard door and takes out a can of baked beans. Now, where did I put the tin opener? He sighs. Ronald searches every corner of his concrete shelter, but to no avail. Damned it, he shouts. I forgot the fucking cutlery. He sits down on the camp bed and rests his head in his hands. I've got no tin opener, no knife and fork, no spoon and no bottle opener either, he frowns. He reaches under the bed and pulls out the long wooden box. He opens the trunk and takes out a bottle of beer. Ronald scratches his head. He puts the lid of the bottle between his teeth and tugs hard on the glass bottle, breaking both his front teeth in the process. The old man screams in agony. Ronald stands up and smashes the neck of the bottle against the porcelain sink. He walks over to the cupboard and takes out a tin of corned beef. Oh, well, at least I don't need a can opener for this, he sighs. The old man puts the corned beef tin down on an old wooden table beside the broken beer bottle. He sits down in a canvas deck chair and puts on his spectacles. Ronald picks up a book, War and Peace by Tolstoy, and begins reading. The hours pass slowly and the old man's stomach begins to rumble. Ronald closes the book and throws it onto the bed. He takes up his spectacles and yawns. He picks up the beer bottle and takes a swig of lager, cutting his lip on the jagged bottleneck. Ow! He screams. He sits down on the camp bed, nursing his bleeding lips. There is a crunching sound. Ronald stands up. He picks up his crumpled spectacles and stares at the shattered lenses. Oh, fuck, he mutters. The old man sits back down on the deck chair and picks up the tin of corned beef. He twists and fumbles with a small metal key in the side of the can and cuts an artery in his left forefinger on a sharp metal lid. Blood spurts from the old man's finger. Ronald stands up and runs to the sink. He picks up a towel and wraps it around his bleeding hand. Now, where did I put my med kit? He asks himself. I must have some bandages or plasters somewhere. Ronald bleeds to death on the floor of his concrete prison, his med kit still sitting in the kitchen of his house upstairs. 1 week later, children are playing games in the park. The sun is shining and the flowers are blooming. Mrs. Hutchinson sits down on a park bench, feeding the pigeons with stale breadcrumbs. Her husband sits beside her, reading a newspaper. The headline reads, "New peace agreement signed today." Mr. Hutchinson breathes a heavy sigh of relief. Thank God they changed their minds at the last minute. If they had dropped that atomic bomb, we would all be dead by now, he frowned. The end.